In my opinion, the most sustainable festival budgets are ones that have a lot of different facets to them. So I'll just list different kinds of funding sources, and then you as an organizer can pick what works for you and combine them in different ways. So one good starting point is what's called hard tickets, which is based on ticket sales alone. This is assuming that you're not hosting a free event, in which case there is no hard ticket sales. So that's the money that you get from people paying to come see the show that you're hosting. Another option that we have, if you live in Canada and you're watching this video, is that there is public funding. And I also know that for some communities, public funding has also historically had a lot more barriers and might not be something that you want to integrate into your event for many reasons. If it is something that you want to integrate, there are different levels of funding that you can look into. There's usually local funding, which is through the city or municipality that you're in. There is provincial funding, and then there is also federal funding. And a lot of those come through arts councils, but there are also non-arts council organizations such as Factor or the SOCAN Foundation, or if you're in Ontario, there's Ontario Creates that offer different kinds of funding. You can apply for multiple grants, and I would recommend giving yourself enough time before the event to hear back from all of those funding sources before you have to move forward. Because some of the grants you might get, some of them you might not get, and you want to know exactly how much you have in your budget before you start sending offers to artists and being able to confirm exactly how much you're going to pay everyone. So I think if you are including grants, it's good to start there first. Give yourself lots of leeway time, and then you know exactly how much you have in your budget. There is also the opportunity to have private funding. If this is your very first year of the festival, it can be tricky to get sponsorships. However, depending on what kind of vibe you want to have, sometimes beer and liquor partnerships are a little bit easier to start with than, say, going after a larger partnership like SiriusXM or something like that, that you might want to start reaching out to them 5-10 years into your programming. That can also be a significant portion of your budget through cash, or private organizations can also offer what's called in-kind support. So that's not cash, but perhaps you want to work with a gear rental company that's going to sponsor you up to $1,000 in rentals, so you have full backline and a PA system in the venue, something like that. You can also get in-kind support through hospitality. Maybe you have a really nice setup in your green room for your artists from a local restaurant that's giving you some in-kind catering. There are so many directions to go, and I think that in-kind partnerships are one of the most wonderful ways to help you get more without having to go after large cash sponsorships in your early years. There are also some rare scenarios where people have private funding, either through their own personal means or a family member or someone that they know who just loves music and wants to give them a lot of money. That's a great scenario. It doesn't happen very often, but that can be a part of your budget too. And then again, coming back to the in-kind aspect, that's something that can kind of take cash out of your budget, where you're able to have things that are covered without having to find the money that's going to pay for them. And I would include community partnerships in your budget as well. Again, there's no cash being passed from hand to hand, but it adds tremendous value to be in partnership with other organizations that are supporting what you're doing.
So once you've got your mission statement established for your festival, and you kind of have a good idea of what you want it to look like and what you want the experience to be, everything has to flow consistently from that. So that is the style of music that is on your stage, the quality of the artists that are on your stage, the technical setup of your stage, the quality of the sound that the audience is going to experience, the actual experience of the audience. What is it going to be like to attend your event, to attend your festival? The choice of venue. Is it that intimate 1,000-seat beautiful concert hall, or is it that big field What's the experience that you're trying to get for your audience? Everything flows from that mission statement. Everything has to be consistent, so that everyone understands what they're getting into. Artists, audience, sponsors, marketers, they all have to have a very clear understanding of what your event is, so they understand what kind of event they're performing at, what kind of event they're attending, what kind of event they're sponsoring, and what kind of event they're publicizing on their outlets. So at the TD Toronto Jazz Festival, for example, our goal is to present jazz in all its forms. Our philosophy is jazz, jazz-influenced, and jazz-influencing music, which is fairly broad and kind of necessarily broad because we're trying to reach a wide audience. But it also reflects the realities of what's happening in jazz music today and what has been happening in jazz music kind of always. Jazz has always influenced other art forms around it and has always been influenced by art forms that surround it. And musicians today especially are making jazz music that has so much influence of all these different musical styles kind of baked in. So it's vital for us to represent jazz in all its forms, not just one form, not just what one person thinks about when they think about jazz, but jazz sort of as a wider umbrella. And what that does is it allows us to talk to more sponsors. It allows us to talk to more marketing outlets. It allows us to reach more people. And because we've put an emphasis on doing free concerts, every year we do 150 free concerts or more, it allows us to reach more people. The festival becomes more accessible that way. We're introducing perhaps more people to what jazz music is or can be, and just kind of developing the ecology that way, getting back to that mission statement of demonstrating what jazz is. So once you've got your lineups done, your tickets are sold, you're publicizing the festival and everything like that. So now it's vital that you stay consistent with everything. You have to stay on brand with this. And what I mean by that is, if you're advertising a certain type of experience and a certain type of artist, everything related to the festival now has to be related to that idea. And then when it comes, for example, to your sponsors, same sort of thing. You want them to have a fantastic experience as well. So everything that you've talked to them in advance happens. If they're getting signage in X, Y, or Z place, they show up and the signs are there. The visibility is fantastic. The recognition is everything that they wanted and maybe even more. Ideally, even more. Again, so that when they leave at the end of the day, not only have they enjoyed the performance because you've thought of all these other things along the way, they feel confident that they've invested in a festival that is giving them a return on investment. They feel good about investing in this thing because they know that their brand has now been associated with something that has resulted in a positive experience for all involved. And on the marketing and publicity side of things, they're trusting that when a radio outlet or a print outlet or a TV outlet or even online, when they talk about an event, when they give up their space to talk about your event, they are trusting that the things that they are saying are true. So make sure they're true. So everything that you've sent in the media release that they are going to talk about, make sure that's what happens. You know, the shows start on time and the artists are there, and you know, there's press tickets available, and maybe there's an extra artist interview or two that they weren't expecting. So you're just trying to make everyone's experience along the way consistent to the idea and the brand of the festival. And at the end of the day, everyone gets to walk away with this incredible memory of what this thing was.
Like any business, a music festival is going to take time, and the music industry can be unpredictable. So you might have some years that go really well and some years that are a little rougher. And as much as you can hang in there, it's important to not get discouraged and recognize that it can take 5 to 10 years for any business to feel comfortable, to feel sustainable, for you to have your team around you. If you are the organizer and the founder of this festival, then I think it's also important to make sure that your needs are taken care of, that you're not pushing yourself more than you can reasonably handle, because burnout is a really common issue in the music industry. And you want to set a tone from the beginning for yourself, for your team, for your board, for your artists, that this is not about pushing past reasonable limits. And so that means for yourself as well. And there are obviously going to be ups and downs. Take care of yourself in the process. And it's really important to ask for help, especially if you're DIYing it. So maybe doing it yourself is a great approach sometimes, but not all the time when you want support for what you're doing.